Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope everybody had a happy Easter this last weekend. And
You found all your eggs?
Yeah. And if you didn't, we hope you were using the plastic ones.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not going to be fun.
Could have a blow up.
Anyway, I am Colton Bartell here at Suzanne's. This is my dad, Audie. And we are continuing our April episodes on diamond. So this one's a little bit different because we're not actually talking about diamonds themselves, but they're imposters.
The wannabes.
The wannabes, yeah. So basically what we're going to be talking about is what we refer to as diamond simulants. Not synthetics, which are two totally different things. Synthetics are actually...
Diamond synthetics.
Yeah, diamond synthetics.
Synthetic diamonds.
Yes, synthetic diamonds are actually diamonds, but they're not a simulant. So a simulant is something that is basically posing as...
But doesn't have any properties of diamond.
Yeah. And so that's what we're talking about today is the simulants. So the ones that are trying to impersonate or replace diamonds. So...
Wannabes.
So I guess, I don't know how we want to go about doing this, but we'd probably talk about maybe the oldest ones first to be the glass. And really the simulants came around in the 1700s really is when they kind of came on scene because diamonds were starting to gain in popularity. There was starting to become more of them in the market. And so pretty much right off the bat, they wanted something to resemble that.
Yeah, you get back, there wasn't just a huge supply of diamonds back then.
No.
And so, there were some clever people that found that they could make glass somewhat look like diamond.
Yeah, put some basically high lead glass. Yeah, and then cut it and make it look like diamond.
And then they got even a little more inventive and added foil to the back, similar to what you do with a mirror.
Yep.
And they're called foil backs, or a lot of them used in costume jewelry. Yeah,
which we've got some here. And they're actually still used today in a lot of costume jewelry. So stuff that you're going to find, like cheapy stuff you're going to find at some of the like little boutiques and stuff like that. That if you get earrings for like $10 or something,
a lot of tiaras.
Yeah, but they're actually cut glass. I know this is hard to see on here. But cut glass, and then they've actually got foil on the back of them that gives it a mirrored effect to make it look more like diamond. And then they actually, I'm going to hold these with the tweezers because it's a little hard to hold otherwise and show you. But they actually will set them in settings, and they're usually pretty cheap, flimsy settings too. They're not going to be in gold or anything like that typically. But for a while it was pretty convincing to people.
Yeah, and some of them would call it paste, which I never could quite figure out why it's called paste.
I don't know.
Did they paste the foil on the back? So
I'm guessing.
I don't know. So, but anyways, I'm going to say there's a lot used that's in older antique jewelry, and they may have some natural stones, natural colored stones that still have foil backs in with.
Matter of fact, there was actually some diamonds that were foil backed, back in the 1800s to give them a different color, to make them appear as fancy colored diamonds. And so, matter of fact, I've got in my little book here, I've got a picture of one of those pieces where they've done that. So this piece here, this big brooch, these are actually all diamonds in here, but they put this foil on the back of them to change the color. So you can actually see this is actually lead glass that they've put kind of a blue and green foils on there to change the colors of the glass. But they also did that with diamond at one point. Don't know that that's something that you'd see today, but you might if you're going through some antique pieces and estate stuff. then we start getting a little bit more complex with the.
What would you
with
say
the
would be the
simulants.
next one?
Well, I guess we could actually talk about some of the natural ones that have been around for a long time that have kind of posed as
Yeah.
diamond. So, like this, actually, we've got this one sitting here that's got a ton of stones in here. These are actually a mix. We're actually kind of separating these right now, but this is a mix of white topaz and white beryl, which is also called goshenite, which is the same material as emerald, but it's colorless instead of green. And these are actually pretty easy to spot and separate from diamond, and so is the glass, because they don't have that fire or those display of color like what diamond does. And so they kind of just have pretty much just white flashes of light coming back at you, and you don't see the rainbow effect that you would a little bit in diamond. And you get some zircon, white zircon. Is that what that one is?
Mm-hmm.
So you have white zircon that's actually natural, and some of this stuff was maybe a little bit brown or something, and they heated it to get it to be colorless. And it's got a little bit more of that fire to it, but the thing with that is zircon is highly doubly refractive, which means that when you look through the stone to the bottom of it, you'll actually see a doubling of the facets. You'll see. You'll look
You should just
look
see
at one,
but you'll see two.
yeah. Whereas in diamond, it's singly refracted, so you'll actually see a really defined facet junction.
And then the other thing is, on most of these, you can get such a high polish on diamond because they're so hard. A lot of times in the simulants or whatever, especially like glass, because sometimes they would actually mold the glass instead of cutting it.
Yeah.
So then you get like rounded facet edges, so you can.
And then if they've been worn at all, a lot of them are so soft that they'll chip or scratch or abrade or whatever, whereas diamond will stay nice and crisp. So you get, especially with like the zircons and then some of these others that we're getting ready to talk about, they're so much softer than diamond that they would, show a lot of wear over time. Especially older pieces, you may have some that they've got so much wear that they've almost become domed.
Yeah, it's more like a frosted cabochon.
Yeah, they look like frosted glass. But there's a lot of diamond simulants out there that are actually natural, because any natural stone that is colorless basically could be used as a simulant, a diamond simulant.
Mm-hmm.
And so really there's a vast amount of stones out there that could pose as diamond. But there's been so much concentration on it over the years that there were several synthetic ones that were developed to basically try and get as close to natural diamonds look and feel as possible, and they gradually got a little bit better in some areas and maybe had some other places that they were kind of lacking, but they gradually got maybe a little bit harder. They got better dispersion or fire in them, but then a lot of times those materials were a lot heavier than diamond. You look at like, is it YAG and CZ and some of these others that are substantially heavier than diamond at the same size. So those were pretty easy to spot.
Well, as long as they were, especially if they were loose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'd have, like on cubic zirconia, you'd have a stone that was the same size as what a carat would be, and it'd weigh like
Carat
a carat
and
80.
three-quarter.
Yeah, like weigh a carat and 80. So, it was that much denser, and so it's easy to separate or show somebody that that it wasn't diamond because of the weight difference.
Yeah, and a lot of these kind of developed as, people in the trade were starting to figure out how to separate them. Then somebody would come up with a new stone to throw them off again. And
Well, yeah, it was almost like, okay, so cubic zirconia was really good unless you got to weigh it.
yeah,
And so then they come up with, I guess maybe the next one to talk about is like moissanite.
yeah,
Cubic zirconia is a singly refractive stone.
Yeah.
Moissanite is a doubly refractive stone.
and CZ it's really, really heavy, but you can make it in pretty much any size, shape,
Oh,
and
I got
color.
the tweezers. I guess I could hold that one up. That one's kind of a fancy brown. There's a white one, fairly large. It's
Yeah.
probably what?
Oh.
4 carat, 3 or 4 carats,
Oh no, that's
5 carats.
that's probably closer to like a 7 carat stone, but it probably weighs more like 10.
Yeah.
And then you've got, like, we've got this whole box. These are actually all CZs, so you can get them in different colors, because then the thing is, people were really wanting fancy colored diamond, but they didn't want to pay for it because it was expensive. And CZ looks probably
Well, it wasn't maybe that they didn't want to pay for it, it's they couldn't.
they couldn't pay for it. Yeah, that's true too. But then you introduce CZ, and some of these, you know what, let me try turning this off, see if that makes it a little bit better. It's maybe a little better. But you introduce CZs that are, these fancy colors, and they're really clean. You don't have to worry so much
Yep.
about inclusions and stuff like that. They're really hard. They're like a 8.5 to 9, or I guess no, about an 8.5 on the Mohs scale. So they're really hard, and without really knowing, there's a lot of times that people still today are pretty thrown by CZ. A lot of times they'll think that it's diamond.
Yeah. We have a little deal that if you have a loose stone, or if you can get it to where, I guess you can do that, and I don't know if we can.
Yeah, these look a little bit better when we don't have that.
CZ, you can basically do, or almost all of the simulants, you can do what's called a read-through effect.
Yep.
So diamond is so optically dense that if you put it over, we can't really do that, but if you put it over some writing or whatever, I guess we can do it right there.
I actually have a picture of what we're talking about.
looky there. Yeah.
It may be difficult to see on here, but whenever you're looking at these, you can actually see when we get over here to these stones, you can actually read the letters underneath through the stone. Whereas diamond, which is this one over here, you can't read anything. Some of these stones are a little bit better than others, but the vast majority of them you'll actually be able to at least see images moving under there as you move the stone, whereas diamond you won't.
No. So, and on, I think all of them are pretty much like that. Moissanite might be maybe the most difficult, maybe.
Yeah, moissanite's pretty close, and believe it or not, moissanite, and it's fairly new on the scene. It really kind of took off in the 90s, but with moissanite, it can actually fool a diamond tester. So what those testers are,
Not all of them.
not all of them, but
I mean, we have one that will disseminate between.
yeah, there's actually moissanite testers that will actually differentiate between them that are specifically for
We
that
have a
too.
multi-tester.
But a lot of those out there will fool a traditional diamond tester because they're testing for that thermal conductivity of the stone. And moissanite is so similar to diamond that it will
in the conductivity.
in the conductivity. Yes, we're talking in the context here.
Okay.
That it would fool it. And so the easiest separation with moissanite is actually looking through the side of the stone for that doubling. And more often than not, you're going to see it pretty much first glance.
Kind of maybe a little bit of an interesting story. When I was at GIA, CZ had just come out, and that would have been like the late 70s. And I'm not sure when the Russians actually made.
They don't ever tell
CZ.
anybody.
Well, anyways, we had I had a friend that was in the class that I was at, GIA, and his family were diamond cutters, and Milan told me that his dad was going to come in, I don't know, sometime, and he says, whenever he does, we're going to grab this moissanite, or not moissanite, but the CZ, cubic zirconia, because he knew his dad had not seen it yet, or been around it. So, comes in, we're actually diamond grading, so the lights are all off in the room and stuff, and Milan goes, oh, Dad's here, so let's take the CZ up there, just to see what happens. And so, it's loose, and we're in the back of the class, and it's dark, and Milan goes, he said, I want you to look at something. And so he just dropped this CZ in his dad's hand, And I'm thinking, he doesn't even know this exists, so he's not going to know what it is. And, it looks like diamond, and
Yeah.
it's dark in there.
But if it drops in your hand, it feels like lead.
So he drops it in his hand, and I'm going to say this was like, I don't think it would have been, it might have been a carat stone, diamond size. Drops in his hand, and his dad kind of shook his hand up and down like that, and he goes, well, I don't know what it is, but it's not diamond. And I was just amazed, still, granted, you got to have an idea of, diamond is still dense, it's still heavy, but, cubic zirconia is considerably heavy, but
Almost double.
you would have to have a feel, which,
And
he's a
that-
diamond cutter.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the first things we were taught at GIA for differentiating diamond from CZ. It was just, it's the heft method. It's
Yeah.
real technical. You put it in your hand and you bounce it a couple times.
Yeah, but it's one of those things you got to have an idea. You
Yeah.
got to have a feel for it. So,
But it is like abnormally heavy. I mean, it feels like somebody is dropping a lead ball in your hand almost. It's maybe not quite that heavy, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
More like the difference between single ply toilet paper and double ply. Like, easy on the weight there.
But
man.
it's one of those that after you've seen it a few times, they're pretty easy to spot. A lot of times, what is a giveaway to them too is they are highly dispersive. They have high dispersion,
So more fire
more so than diamonds. So they actually show more rainbow
colors.
than what diamond does, and almost I would say it's maybe like double what diamond does. Now I know
And again, it's one of those things where, like the no. Are we back?
We're back.
Well, anyways,
Well, that was about.
it'd be a little bit difficult for maybe somebody else to be able to tell. The other thing is once CZ gets dirty, which it seems like cubic zirconia is more difficult to clean,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if
I don't
it's
know.
a tackier surface or
Maybe.
what the deal is.
Yeah, they need to
But-
put like some Scotch Guard on them or something.
It's like, a lot of the attributes that are good about cubic zirconia almost disappear. I mean, you don't have the dispersive,
Yeah,
and they look like a piece of glass once they,
they
get
do.
dirty.
They do.
So I don't know, we probably dealt enough there. So I guess the next one that we would talk about would be moissanite.
Mm-hmm.
And moissanite is that's in the trade or whatever is a synthetic, because moissanite can actually actually occur naturally.
Well, and CZ can too. It's just usually it's such small,
Yeah, but
rare crystals that
Yeah.
the only time you'd ever see natural CZ would probably be in a gem collection somewhere.
I've
never make it into the jewelry.
I've
industry.
never seen it.
Yeah.
I've not even seen a picture of it.
I haven't seen a picture of it. I've only read about it.
Now the moissanite, I know that can happen.
Yeah, it's actually whenever it was discovered, it was actually discovered as a natural stone first before becoming a synthetic, and it was found in a meteorite in Arizona.
No.
And it actually, believe it or not, in rare cases, natural moissanite can occur as an inclusion in diamond, natural diamond.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
What does that look like?
I don't know.
I never seen
I
that.
only read about that one too. But yeah, it is a naturally occurring stone, but for our purposes, for jewelry purposes, it's always synthetic, just like CZ. It's always lab grown, and so there's not a natural.
And where's our moissanite? Oh, here it is.
Yeah, we've got our moissanite here. Now, with all these, they also have different expenses too. So basically, the closer you get to what the look of diamond is, the more expensive those stones become too. Some of that is due to process and how it's made. Obviously, glass, pretty
Try
inexpensive to
turn
make.
that light off and see what happens.
It's a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
But glass is obviously pretty inexpensive to make, therefore it's going to be an inexpensive stone to use. you get into some of these natural simulants like white topaz, goshenite, white sapphire.
White
some of
sapphire
those.
is going to be a little more expensive.
Yeah, and that's all based on rarity with those, not so much production cost.
And white sapphire's gotten a little more expensive because they're able to treat white sapphire to make it blue.
Yeah.
And blue is
By far more.
more expensive than what white is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they started doing this, because I run into this with a customer, they've also made the white sapphire more expensive because there's less of it on the market.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird deal.
Yeah.
On
See, on
cubic
CZ,
zirconia, whenever it first came out, it was fairly expensive.
Yeah.
But they could make that stuff,
By the ton.
yeah. So after a while, it's gotten fairly inexpensive. It's probably
Yeah.
more the labor to cut it.
It
a lot of
is.
that's probably machine cut.
Yeah, it is, and you get into some of the larger CZs, and you'll start getting into maybe a few $100s for a stone. But,
Maybe it'd have to be a big one.
Yeah, but generally it is more expensive than a lot of those others out there. It's going to be definitely more expensive than glass.
Yeah.
And a lot of these other ones that we've kind of mentioned, we mentioned one called YAG, which is yttrium aluminum garnet.
Right.
And though it's called a garnet, it's not technically a synthetic garnet. It's a synthetic crystal that appears in a pseudo-cubic crystal.
And some of the first was used in lasers.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff was pretty short on the scene. It came and went
Well,
about
and
as
it
fast.
wasn't a great, I'll say, simulant. 'Cause
Yeah. Apparently we are having some internet issues today, but anyway, with like the YAG, and then there's one called a GGG, which is gadolinium gallium garnet,
Right.
and that stuff was really soft and was just not that great
I don't
stuff.
know.
It would abrade almost as easy, or it was so bad that a lot of times I don't think it made it into the mountings before it already showed some abrasion to it.
So it was same hardness as talc.
Yeah, it's really soft. I think it's like a 4 or something like that. It's really soft.
Yeah.
And then you've got some other ones out there. You've got some synthetic spinel. You've got
Synthetic sapphire.
yeah, and then there's also let me
Which
see
we
here.
should have.
Synthetic rutile. That one didn't last long, and that stuff
I don't know if
is
I've ever
really
seen that.
highly dispersive. Like that stuff looks like, I don't know, it just
big
looks like
rainbow.
a rainbow. Then there's one we didn't talk about was doublets. There's been some glass and garnet doublets, and they took some garnet and actually put that on the top to give it some hardness.
And a lot of people would, whenever I first heard that they had a garnet and glass doublet, and I'm thinking, well,
This is gonna be ugly.
I'm thinking it's going to be red.
Yeah.
But what they do is the color that garnet and glass doublet actually takes on is whatever the color of the glass is.
Yeah.
Which is really strange. But
Yeah.
the reason they do the garnet and glass is because the garnet is considerably harder than what the glass is. So they put it on top,
And they basically glue it together.
glue it together, and then cut the stone, and so you've got a stone that wears a lot better, but actually can be colorless.
Yeah. And actually, we've got a picture of this, and this may be difficult to see, but this is actually a garnet and glass doublet. And then this one is actually a strontium titanate doublet.
Oh, yeah, forgot that.
And that one, you can actually see there's basically a real distinct line here. And they'd actually put, I think it was, what was that?
I'll have it
Synthetic
finished.
synthetic spinel on the top, or
geez.
synthetic sapphire on the top, and basically that gave it its hardness because the strontium titanate was really soft stuff. But when you put those two together, they'd have a very similar look to diamond.
I don't think I've seen one of those.
Yeah, yeah, that stuff's pretty crazy. We talked about zircon. we've talked a little bit about the synthetic rutile, and that one I'll show you here. So this is actually diamond here, and then this is that synthetic rutile on the side. That stuff is just, it lights up like a Christmas tree. I mean,
I've seen this.
Yeah.
I
And
don't think
it
we have
didn't
any of
didn't last very long. And actually, what's funny is,
This looks a little bit like yag.
yeah, what's funny is this stuff came about by accident whenever scientists were trying to find a better whitener for paint.
Mm. Because it's got
And
titanium in it.
hmm well,
Isn't that-
no, that was the strontium titanate. This is the synthetic rutile.
Mm. Well,
It came up with that.
Rutile is titanium.
Yeah, I don't have that in there.
Rutile crystal is
Yeah.
Titanium
Yeah.
oxide.
And that they came about in
Isn't that weird
1948.
that titanium basically makes stuff white?
Yeah. Well, they like use it in gum, stuff
In
like
gum?
that. Yep. If you look at like the ones that have like a hard candy shell on the gum, look on the back. It'll have titanium as is what gives it the white color.
I may not eat any of them anymore.
That-
Titanium is kind of, I guess you get it in the metal form, it's a little on the hard side.
Yeah. You can use it in glazes and paints and
Uh,
all sorts of stuff.
let's-
It's in a lot of things. If you check
So
the labels,
just straight titanium.
titanium powder is what they're using.
So, well, I guess what I'm trying to wrap around, titanium is basically a metal, right?
Hmm
So is it in metal form? All the metals I've seen is like a silvery gray.
But it's a lot like tungsten. Tungsten is a metal, but most of the
That's a
time
sintered.
it's a powdered form.
Yeah, sintered.
Yeah. So
And they
it's
basically
very
compress it with heat.
it's some weird stuff. It's not a traditional metal.
That's just weird that titanium makes stuff white.
Yep. And then this is the GGG. You can actually see that even this stone that hadn't even been set yet has some abrasion to it. This is the yag that's up here at the top. And
Now that's a pretty white yag because
Mm-hmm.
all the yag I've seen looks more like that.
yeah. Then you get, these are some of the CZs and stuff like that. Whenever CZ first came on the scene, there was a lot of people that were trying to pass it off as diamond. And so much so that there was even some found in India in a parcel of rough, where a guy actually took a CZ crystal and carved it into an octahedron and actually carved trigons or little triangles on the side of the stone to make it appear as diamond.
Mm.
Yeah. What threw him was the weight. When they went to weigh it, it didn't add up. So, yeah. But you've got like this, you've got natural fancy colored diamonds over here. They started getting in popularity, but the price, a lot of people couldn't afford them. So introduce your colored CZ. And then we get into what we were talking about with moissanite, that doubling. So we've actually got a little picture here of this, and if you look on this photo, it actually doubles the facets. You actually almost looks like it's out of focus, or like you've crossed your eyes or something while you're looking at it. It's actually hard to look at under magnification. Kind of throws you off a little bit.
And you get right down to it, everybody swears by moissanite that, it's the best diamond simulant. But you get right down to it, I think because it's so doubly refractive, it almost kind of takes a little bit of that sparkle out, or
It
the light's
does.
not quite as crisp, I guess.
Yeah, and it depends on how they're cut. If you've got somebody that's cutting moissanite really well, they kind of avoid that because you can actually
Is it only
cut that
one direction?
Yeah, you can cut that crystal in such a way that it doesn't display that doubling
As
as obvious face up. So that's why you have to usually look at it from the side.
But to me, price-wise, probably the best.
Is CZ.
Yeah.
Yeah, because moissanite's substantially more expensive.
Yeah.
Process is a lot more difficult for them to produce that stuff, and it's usually hand cut.
Well, supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
Yeah. I don't. I don't know enough about how they make it or whatever, but normally, whenever they get to the point where they're really good at making these synthetics, they can bring that price down
Yeah.
a long ways.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between moissanite and cubic zirconia as far as price.
Yeah. So, the best thing is whenever you're looking at buying diamond, is definitely go to somebody that's reliable and knowledgeable in the industry, has a lot of experience with it, and can differentiate between all the different stones. Because, like we said, you know, pretty much any colorless stone can simulate diamond, and it's, you know, in some cases very difficult to differentiate those if you don't know what you're looking for. So having somebody that you're doing business with that is reputable and experienced and knowledgeable about diamonds and gemstones is definitely going to save you a lot of heartache in the end, or potentially a lot of heartache in the end, and possibly a lot of money. So, but if you guys have any other questions or anything, feel free to comment or send us a message, or you can give us a call here at Suzanne's 361-991-7565, or just stop by our store here at the Town and Country Shopping Center at the corner of Everhart and Alameda, right here in Corpus Christi, Texas. So,
Thank you.